Hi, Jim Romer, meteorologist and commodity advisor for 35 years for hedge funds, farmers around the world. If you need some help in your forecasting skills as far as using more approaches to medium and long range forecasts, please watch this video. It is about 5 minutes or more in length. And we have some of the most sophisticated software to use what we call teleconnection, staples of climatic variables around the world that we piece together to help us predict weather months in advance for farmers and commodity traders, and mostly meteorologists to help their clients. I've been in this business a long time. I went to college in Vermont. My professor actually helped start the Weather Channel back in the 1980s. And I've been lucky enough to be a meteorologist for some of the biggest hedge funds in the world and also farmers and commodity traders. Stay with me here. There is quite a bit, and you'll need to contact my associate, Dr. Doug Stewart, in which he can walk you through all these different tools. So first of all, here are all the teleconnections we have, over 28. Some of them most meteorologists don't even follow. And you could go back and pretty much look at historical years all the way back to 1950s and every variable you want, from snow cover to hurricanes to temperatures and humidity, and look how teleconnections impact global weather as well as what we believe is some effect of climate change. So let's start here first. Look at the upper right there. We have all these different tools: an anomaly tool, composite T, composite S, composite R, analog tools, all sorts of different unique features. Again, we'll have you contact my web developer, Doug Stewart, to go over all this, as some of it can be a little bit complicated, and definitely a great fun tool to help you forecast longer range for your clients. So also we have the different variables. You can look at temperature there in the upper right, precipitation, sea level pressure, the hurricanes going back to 1950, the ITCZ data going back to the 1960s and 70s to forecast, for example, for cocoa. We have snow cover maps. Look at this. We have hurricane tracks and how they relate actually to teleconnections. You can use teleconnections in the spring and summer to help predict hurricanes. The AMO, for example, La Nina, El Nino, all these help us project hurricane tracks and the energy of hurricanes, ACE, sometimes weeks and months in advance. So first of all, now the upper right there, you see analysis tool. Let's look at composite T. So basically, these unchecked boxes at any given moment, right now we're looking at the fall of 2022, are generally those teleconnections having the biggest impact on weather around the world. We're looking right now at the analysis date of October, for example, and the unchecked boxes basically give you the most important teleconnection variables. You click on those boxes, you can kind of play with the ones you want to use, and you can see, for example, two analog years come up, looking at La Nina, Nina 1.2 being the coolest, and the projections of a cold December. Very interesting for sure. It's helped a lot of clients. We also have what's called a correlation tool. You remember the geophysics site from NOAA lets the meteorologists all over the world kind of plot temperature and rainfall patterns going back to the 1950s based upon correlations. We have a tool that's even better, we believe, and it helps you look at any of these teleconnections there in blue and project what will typically happen. So, for example, the EPO index, if it's negative in October, November, meaning a block over the Gulf of Alaska, what does it mean for December and January historically? Will that negative EPO continue? Because if it does, then you have very cold winters, the EPO being a major force in winter weather, for example. We have also a analog tool. There you see analysis date. So for example, if you believe that the La Nina is going to continue, if the EPO index is going to be negative, whatever things that you believe will continue to exist, you plug those values in and up come different analog years. So for example, here in November of 2022, the negative EPO and the negative NAO index and La Nina are the most important teleconnections I began forecasting for my clients here over the last month. And indeed, what will happen when you plug those values in, you notice the cold December for the eastern half of the country, maybe as much as 6 to 10 degrees or more below normal for the month of December. That is another tool that we have. It's called, again, the analog tool. Really a lot to look at here, so stay with me. We can look at extremes, for example. What were some of the most important extremes here in 2022? Well, as you know, we've had really one of the warmest summers on record for Europe, and we click on that. As you see there, we can put the dots anywhere in the world that we want. Let's focus on Northern Europe, as you see there. And what comes up generally is these particular analog years. Look at this, the blue vertical lines representing the analog years of the hottest summers on record for Europe. And you can look at those analog years and make projections again for your clients weeks and months in advance. Again, you can also click on any of these blue icons, look at the correlations of teleconnections. Let's look at NINA 1.2, the cool ocean temperatures, as La Nina is actually not weakening here in the fall of 2022. Unlike many meteorologists believing models were expecting La Nina to weaken, we've been saying for months it will not. So let's click on, for example, NINA 1.2. What comes up here? You could change the variables, 500 millibar heights, where that arrow is, the temperatures, the rainfall. We're looking at the top 10% strongest La Ninas at NINA 1.2 here in the fall of 2022. And look at December, how the upper level winds favor that trough and cold weather in the eastern third of the country. You could go back and again and look at pretty much any of these teleconnections. Here, for example, is the top 25% of the coolest La Nina 1.2s going back to 1950. As you notice on the left there are more analog years. Top 10%, they're the analog years on the left. Top 25%, they're the analog years on the right. How about for commodities? My goodness, we could look at global impacts of teleconnections for corn, soybeans, natural gas, you name it. You click on the region you want around the world, and up comes different correlations of teleconnections. For example, for South America, region 8 for Argentina, look at the correlations. We can change the variables. We can change how far in advance we want to look at. Let's look at lead time 3 there on the right from October, and that's going out to the January time frame. Look at the teleconnections that are most important. The PNA index, that's surprising. The PDO, Pacific Decadal Oscillation Index, also La Nina. Right, these are the strongest correlations to forecast rainfall, as you see there in the upper right. Again, you change the variable, the temperatures, the 500 millibar winds, whatever you like, to look at the most important teleconnections to predict weather months in advance. And we have clean teleconnection data, folks. Some of the data out there is not very accurate. We've gone back and cleaned up all this data for teleconnections going back to 1950. Absolutely fantastic program. There are a lot of things to look at here. So my suggestion is contact my colleague, Dr. Doug Stewart, who went to both MIT and University of Miami. He's got a PhD in meteorology and an amazing web developer. Again, you want to email him and you'll get all the information how you can use our program and get about a month or so free trial. Again, hedge funds, cotton farmers in Florida, or down in South America, rather, natural gas traders around the world, they'll all use this program to help them predict long-range forecasts for their clients. Thank you and enjoy.